Hi, it's Pastor Andy, and this is our Friday preview for the week of March 14th, or for the Sunday of March 14th, anyway. And we are still in Romans. I hope you're finding that Romans is really a fascinating letter. We're 7.5 chapters into it, and this week is just a one of my favorite parts of this chapter within this letter. I want to be careful to say this is not necessarily my favorite set of verses, but it is one of my two sets of favorite verses within this chapter, which is my favorite chapter within this book or letter, which is my favorite letter. So it is very high on my list. But what part of what we're going to talk about this week is the idea of suffering. Now, we don't need to go out and seek suffering. If we are seeking Jesus, suffering is going to find us. The Bible makes that very, very clear. But in this week's passage, Paul also shows us that suffering is not just something that we do, and more importantly, that it doesn't need to leave us defeated. In fact, as we're going to see, in spite of the suffering, we can have hope, and we must cling to that hope in the midst of the suffering. So Romans 8, verses 18 through 25, though, again, as I just mentioned, is not just about our suffering, it is about the suffering of all of creation. And there's some argument about what that term exactly means. And I'll cover that in one of the daily videos next week a little bit. But regardless, we suffer alongside creation. Romans 8:23 says that. So now that may not make a lot of sense at first, but I will share the truth of that idea on Sunday. And the reason behind all of that is why these verses excite me so much. So my hope is that when you hear this, you'll have a little extra get up in your step, a little more excitement about these verses. Maybe you already know this. It'll just be a reminder and it'd be a new set of energy for you as it relates to this. But so that is for this week, March the 14th. On March 21st, we will continue Romans, looking at a very well-known verse, the Romans 8:28, that many may have learned and quote in various settings, which does relate to the idea of suffering, which, again, we are picking up this week. But we'll continue that in verses 26 through 30 next week. Then we'll take a 1-week break from Romans at the end of March on the 28th. That Sunday will be Palm Sunday, and Rick Sons is scheduled to preach at this point in time before we jump back into Romans on Resurrection Sunday, where we will look at Romans chapter 8, verses 31 through 39, and how we cannot be separated from the love of God, even by death, which is why the resurrection comes into play. So I hope to see you on Sunday. If you can come on Sunday, or maybe as the weather's warming up and COVID begins to maybe be a little bit more behind us, I hope to see you returning on Sunday. If not, at least online. But as you come, or as you watch, invite somebody else to do that with you, and let us spread the hope that we have, the hope that Paul's going to reveal to us this week, why it's so important and why it can help us so much. Let us be spreaders of that hope, whether that is through inviting somebody to watch online, through an email or a text or whatever, or to invite them with us to worship with us on Sunday. So I'll see you Sunday.